September 15, 1918. 7:23 a.m. The younger brother of the legendary Red Baron and commander of the Kaiser's most elite fighter squadron stands beside his crimson Fokker D7, watching through field glasses as a formation of American aircraft approaches from the west. The morning mist clings to the Somme Valley below, but at 12,000 feet, the sky blazes with autumn sunlight that catches the silver wings of the approaching aircraft like scattered coins. Mein Gott, Lothar mutters to Lieutenant Georg von Hantelmann, his wingman and fellow aristocrat from Prussia's military elite. Look at this aerial zoo they're sending against us now, flying in formation like a traveling circus parade. Through his Zeiss optics, Lothar counts 14 aircraft, a mixture of SPAD fighters, Nieuport scouts, and what appear to be American-built DH-9 bombers, all flying in the loose, undisciplined formation that has become the trademark of American air units throughout 1918. The sight fills Lothar with familiar contempt. Since the first American squadrons arrived in France 8 months earlier, German aces have regarded them as little more than aerial entertainment. Enthusiastic amateurs flying inferior aircraft with tactics that belong in 1915 rather than 1918. The Americans call themselves the First Pursuit Group. Still, German pilots have nicknamed them der amerikanische Zirkus, the American Flying Circus, a mocking reference to their colorful aircraft markings and theatrical approach to aerial combat. What Lothar von Richthofen cannot know as he watches the American formation grow larger through his field glasses is that he is witnessing the opening moments of what will become known as Die Schwarze Woche, the Black Week, 7 days during which German air power will suffer its most devastating losses of the entire war. By September 22nd, Jagdgeschwader 1, the elite flying circus that once terrorized Allied aviation, will have lost 70 aircraft and 52 pilots, including some of Germany's most experienced aces. The transformation will be so complete, so shocking in its suddenness, the German air commanders will be forced to reevaluate their understanding of American capabilities completely. But on this crisp September morning, such disasters seem impossible to imagine. Lothar von Richthofen commands 18 of the finest fighter pilots in the German Army Air Service, flying the most advanced aircraft available to any air force in the world. His Fokker D7, powered by a 185-horsepower BMW engine, can climb to 23,000 feet and reach speeds of 124 miles per hour. Performance specifications that exceed those of most Allied fighters. More importantly, his pilots are veterans of aerial combat, men who have survived hundreds of dogfights against British, French, and Italian opponents. The Jagdgeschwader 1, the original flying circus created by Manfred von Richthofen before his death in April 1918, represents the pinnacle of German aerial warfare doctrine. Its pilots are selected from the elite of German aviation, aristocratic officers trained in Prussian military academies, men who view aerial combat as a modern form of medieval chivalry. They fly aircraft painted in distinctive personal schemes that announce their identities to friend and foe alike. They follow tactical doctrines developed through 4 years of aerial warfare, refined through countless engagements against the finest pilots of 3 Allied nations. Against this aerial aristocracy, the Americans have deployed what German intelligence reports describe as a collection of mechanics, farmers, and college students with minimal flying experience and inferior equipment. American pilots arrive in France with an average of 25 hours of flight training, compared to the 200-plus hours required for German fighter pilots. They fly aircraft that German technical experts consider obsolete or inadequate for modern aerial combat. Most damaging to German perceptions, American pilots display an enthusiasm and aggressiveness that veteran German aces interpret as dangerous inexperience. Lothar signals to his squadron, and 18 Fokker D7s rise from the grass airfield in perfect formation. The sight is magnificent, the most advanced fighter aircraft in the world, painted in the personal colors of Germany's finest pilots, climbing toward combat with mechanical precision that reflects 4 years of tactical evolution. Each pilot knows his position in the formation, understands his role in the coming engagement, and possesses the experience necessary to execute complex aerial maneuvers under combat conditions. The German tactical approach to aerial combat has been refined through years of deadly trial and error. German pilots fight in carefully coordinated formations that maximize their aircraft's performance advantages while minimizing exposure to enemy fire. They use altitude and speed to dictate the terms of engagement, diving on enemy formations from superior positions and climbing away before Allied pilots can respond effectively. Most importantly, German pilots have learned to exploit the weaknesses of Allied aircraft and the predictable tactics of Allied formations. These tactical lessons have been learned at enormous cost. German aviation has lost over 3,000 pilots since 1914, but the survivors represent the finest aerial combat veterans in the world. Men like Lothar von Richthofen, with 40 confirmed victories, or Ernst Udet, with 62 kills, or Hermann Göring, who commands Jagdgeschwader 27, with the tactical brilliance that will later make him famous in politics. These pilots have forgotten more about aerial combat than most American pilots will ever learn. As the opposing formations close to within 5 miles of each other, Lothar studies the American aircraft through his binoculars, looking for tactical advantages he can exploit. The American formation appears to be led by SPAD 13 fighters, French-built aircraft that German pilots respect for their speed and structural strength, but consider inferior to the Fokker D-7 in climbing ability and maneuverability. Behind the SPADs, flying in loose formation, are several Newport 28 Scouts that American factories have been producing under license since early 1918. What troubles Lothar, however, is the discipline of the American formation. Instead of the wild, undisciplined flying that has characterized previous American air operations, this formation maintains precise spacing and altitude discipline, suggesting extensive training and experienced leadership. The lead aircraft, a SPAD painted in distinctive red, white, and blue stripes, moves with the confidence of a pilot who understands aerial tactics and possesses the skill to execute complex maneuvers. Unknown to Lothar, the lead SPAD is flown by Captain Eddie Rickenbacker, who has spent the summer of 1918 systematically studying German tactical manuals, interviewing captured German pilots, and developing counter-tactics specifically designed to neutralize German advantages in aircraft performance and pilot experience. Rickenbacker's formation includes some of America's finest pilots, men like Lieutenant Frank Luke, who has specialized in balloon-busting missions that require exceptional courage and marksmanship, and Captain Field Kindley, whose tactical innovations have made American squadrons significantly more effective against German formations. But even more significantly, Rickenbacker's formation represents the culmination of 8 months of intensive American adaptation to European aerial warfare. American pilots who arrived in France with minimal combat experience have been learning from their mistakes, studying German tactics, and developing new approaches that combine American industrial advantages with tactical innovations borrowed from British and French aviation. The engagement begins at 7:31 a.m. when Lothar leads his formation in a classical German attack, high-speed dive from 15,000 feet that should scatter the American formation and allow individual German pilots to engage isolated American aircraft. The tactic has proven devastatingly effective against Allied formations throughout 1918, typically resulting in multiple German victories with minimal German losses. But instead of scattering in panic, the American formation executes a coordinated defensive maneuver that catches the Germans completely off guard. The SPAD fighters turn toward the diving German aircraft, presenting concentrated firepower that forces the Germans to break off their attack prematurely. Simultaneously, the American bombers climb toward the German formation, using their defensive armament to create additional threats that complicate German tactical calculations. Lothar pulls out of his dive at 8,000 feet, his Fokker groaning under the stress of the high-speed maneuver. As he looks back over his shoulder, he is amazed to see that the American formation has not only survived the German attack, but has maintained its cohesion and is now positioning itself for a counterattack. For the first time in his combat career, Lothar feels a flicker of uncertainty about the outcome of an aerial engagement. The dogfight that follows lasts for over 30 minutes and covers nearly 60 miles of French countryside. German pilots, despite their superior aircraft and extensive experience, find themselves unable to achieve the quick, decisive victory that their tactical doctrine demands. American pilots demonstrate tactical sophistication that exceeds anything German aces have encountered from Allied opponents, using coordinated attacks that maximize their numerical advantages while minimizing individual aircraft vulnerability. More troubling for the Germans is the apparent quality of American aircraft. The SPADs flown by Rickenbacker's pilots demonstrate performance capabilities that match or exceed those of German fighters. In contrast, American pilots display marksmanship and tactical awareness that suggest extensive training and combat experience. German pilots, who have dominated aerial combat for 4 years, suddenly find themselves fighting opponents who seem immune to traditional German tactical advantages. The turning point comes when Lieutenant Frank Luke, flying a SPAD painted in distinctive Arizona desert camouflage, executes a maneuver that would become known as the American Roll, a high-speed diving attack followed by an inverted climb that brings his aircraft directly behind a German Fokker in a position for a killing shot. The German pilot, Lieutenant Heinrich Bongartz, a 15-victory ace from Bavaria, has no time to react before Luke's twin Vickers machine guns riddle his aircraft with bullets. Bongartz's Fokker explodes in mid-air, the victim of American marksmanship that exceeds anything German pilots have experienced in 4 years of combat. The psychological impact on the remaining German pilots is immediate and devastating. They have just witnessed one of their experienced comrades shot down by an American pilot using tactics that seem to come from an entirely different war. Within minutes, 2 more German aircraft fall to American guns. Lieutenant Otto Esswein, flying his personal green and yellow Fokker, is shot down by Captain Kindley in a head-on attack that demonstrates American willingness to accept risks that more experienced pilots would avoid. Lieutenant Max Holzheim, a 12-victory ace, is destroyed when 3 American SPADs coordinate a simultaneous attack that overwhelms his ability to defend himself. Lothar von Richthofen, watching his squadron disintegrate under American fire, makes the decision that will haunt him for the rest of his life. He orders his remaining pilots to disengage and retreat toward German lines. For the first time since the Flying Circus was created, German pilots are running from American opponents. The retreat becomes a rout as American pilots pursue the scattered German formation across 50 miles of contested airspace. German aircraft that had dominated the skies over the Western Front for 4 years are shot down one by American pilots who demonstrate tactical skills and marksmanship that exceed those of veteran German aces. By the time the surviving German aircraft reach the safety of their own anti-aircraft artillery, Jagdgeschwader 11 has lost 8 aircraft and 6 pilots, including 3 aces with a combined total of 42 victories. For Lothar von Richthofen, the disaster represents more than a tactical defeat. It means the collapse of everything German aviation has believed about American capabilities. American pilots, once considered inexperienced amateurs, have just outfought the elite of German aviation using aircraft that were supposed to be inferior to German machines. The implications are terrifying for German morale and tactical doctrine. But the September 15th engagement is only the beginning of Germany's week of aerial disasters. American air operations throughout the week of September 15, 22 demonstrate a level of coordination, tactical sophistication, and industrial support that German commanders had believed impossible for American forces to achieve. American squadrons attack German airfields with precision bombing raids that destroy aircraft on the ground. American fighters sweep German airspace with aggressive patrols that force German pilots to remain on the defensive. American observation aircraft conduct reconnaissance missions with impunity, providing intelligence that enables devastating artillery strikes against German positions. The statistics from Die Schwarze Wochenschau are staggering even by the brutal standards of aerial warfare. Between September 15 and 22, German air units lost 70 aircraft and 52 pilots in combat against American forces. These losses include 23 pilots with ace status, representing over 400 combined victories and decades of accumulated combat experience. German aircraft production, already strained by material shortages and industrial bombing, cannot replace these losses at anywhere near the rate at which they are occurring. More devastating than the material losses is the psychological impact on surviving German pilots. Men who have dominated aerial combat since 1914 suddenly find themselves facing American opponents who seem to possess unlimited numbers of superior aircraft, limitless supplies of ammunition and fuel, and tactical capabilities that render German experience irrelevant. German pilots report encountering American formations that include 50 or more aircraft, numbers that overwhelm German tactical doctrine and make coordinated defense impossible. The quality of American aircraft has also undergone a transformation that German intelligence failed to anticipate. American factories are now producing SPADs that exceed the performance of German fighters in every measurable category except maneuverability. American engines, based on French designs but manufactured with American precision and materials, provide power and reliability that surpass those of German engines, which suffer from material shortages and quality control problems. Perhaps most significantly, American pilots are now flying with a level of tactical sophistication that demonstrates systematic study of German methods and careful development of counter-tactics. American formations no longer fall for German tactical deceptions that have proven effective against British and French units. American pilots coordinate their attacks with mathematical precision that maximizes their firepower while minimizing their exposure to German defensive fire. The industrial advantages supporting American air operations are equally impressive. American squadrons receive new aircraft to replace combat losses within days rather than weeks. American pilots have unlimited access to ammunition, fuel, and spare parts, enabling sustained combat operations at intensities that German units cannot match. American training programs are producing replacement pilots faster than German forces can kill them. In contrast, German pilot training has been reduced to inadequate levels due to fuel shortages and a lack of experienced instructors. By September 20th, German air commanders are issuing orders that would have been unthinkable just weeks earlier. German pilots are instructed to avoid combat with American formations whenever possible, to retreat immediately when outnumbered, and to focus on defensive missions rather than offensive operations. The transformation is complete. German aviation has gone from predator to prey in the space of less than a week. The culmination of Die Schwarze Woche comes on September 22nd, when American forces launched the most extensive air operation in military history, a coordinated attack involving over 200 aircraft targeting German airfields, supply dumps, and transportation networks across a 100-mile front. The operation, personally planned by Colonel Billy Mitchell, demonstrates American capabilities that exceed those of all other combatant nations combined. The attacking force includes 89 SPAD fighters providing escort, 67 DH-9 bombers carrying 500-pound bombs, and 44 observation aircraft coordinating the attack through radio communication. The formation is supported by American artillery units, providing suppressive fire against German anti-aircraft positions, and American infantry units capturing German observation posts to prevent advance warning of the attack. The results exceed even American expectations. German airfields at Busigny, Bohain, and Guise are entirely destroyed, with over 40 German aircraft caught on the ground and burned by American bombs. German supply dumps containing fuel, ammunition, and spare parts are obliterated, creating shortages that will cripple German air operations for weeks. German transportation networks are severed by precision bombing that demonstrates American industrial capacity to produce specialized ordnance in unlimited quantities. Most importantly, the September 22nd operation demonstrates the American ability to coordinate air, ground, and artillery forces in combined operations that achieve strategic objectives rather than merely tactical victories. German commanders watching the systematic destruction of their air infrastructure realize that they are no longer fighting individual American pilots. Still, the entire industrial capacity of the United States applied to aerial warfare with devastating efficiency. The human cost of Die Schwarze Woche extends far beyond statistics of aircraft lost and pilots killed. German air units that have maintained high morale throughout 4 years of devastating warfare suddenly find themselves dealing with pilots who have lost confidence in their equipment, their tactics, and their training. German aces who have regarded themselves as aerial knights find themselves outclassed by American pilots who treat aerial combat as an industrial process rather than individual heroism. Lieutenant Werner Voss, one of Germany's highest-scoring aces, with 48 victories, files a combat report after surviving an encounter with American fighters on September 21st that captures the psychological transformation affecting German aviation. The American pilots demonstrate tactical capabilities that suggest fundamental changes in Allied air doctrine. Their attacks are coordinated and methodical, lacking the impulsive characteristics we have observed in previous American operations. Most concerning is their apparent ability to maintain numerical superiority in every engagement. We are no longer fighting individual American pilots, but American industrial capacity applied to aerial warfare. Voss's assessment proves prophetic. American aircraft factories are producing fighters, bombers, and observation aircraft at rates that exceed German production by factors of 5 to 1 or higher. American pilot training programs are graduating new aviators faster than German forces can shoot them down. American supply lines provide unlimited ammunition, fuel, and replacement parts, enabling sustained combat operations at intensities that overwhelm German defensive capabilities. The technological advantages supporting American air operations have also reached levels that German engineers cannot match. American aircraft engines, based on French designs but manufactured with American materials and precision, provide power outputs that exceed German engines by 20 to 30%. American aircraft construction techniques produce fighters that are both lighter and stronger than German machines, providing performance advantages in speed, climb rate, and structural durability. Most significantly, American industrial capacity enables tactical innovations that would be impossible for any European air force. American squadrons routinely operate with 50 to 75% more aircraft than their authorized strength, allowing them to maintain full combat effectiveness even while absorbing heavy losses. American pilots receive replacement aircraft within hours of combat damage, while German pilots often wait weeks for repairs to minor damage. The intelligence advantages supporting American operations are equally decisive. American forces have captured enough German aircraft and equipment to understand German tactical capabilities in detail, while German intelligence has failed to anticipate the rapid evolution of American aviation. American pilots know the performance limitations of German aircraft, the tactical preferences of German formations, and the communication procedures used by German air units. German pilots, by contrast, continue to underestimate American capabilities until the moment they are shot down. By the end of September 1918, the transformation of aerial warfare over the Western Front had been complete. German air units that had controlled the skies since 1914 were now reduced to defensive missions, flown by demoralized pilots in obsolete aircraft with inadequate support. American air forces, written off as ineffective amateurs just months earlier, have achieved air superiority through a combination of industrial capacity, tactical innovation, and operational effectiveness that exceeds anything achieved by European air forces. The strategic implications extend far beyond aerial combat. German ground forces, deprived of air support and subjected to constant American air attacks, lose the mobility and tactical flexibility that have characterized German operations throughout the war. German artillery, targeted by American observation aircraft and bombed by American attack planes, becomes increasingly ineffective. German supply lines, severed by systematic American bombing, cannot support the logistics requirements of modern warfare. Most importantly, German morale suffers a blow from which it will never recover. German soldiers who have believed in the superiority of German technology and tactics watch American aircraft dominate skies that German pilots once controlled. German civilians, subjected to American bombing raids that penetrate deep into German territory, realize that Germany's vaunted air defenses cannot protect them from American industrial might applied to aerial warfare. The contrast with German expectations from earlier in 1918 could not be more stark. German air commanders who dismissed American aviation as a flying circus of amateur enthusiasts are forced to confront the reality that American pilots have achieved in months what European air forces required years to accomplish. German pilots, who mocked American aircraft as obsolete training machines, discovered that American industry could design, build, and deploy superior aircraft faster than German force could adapt to counter them. The final irony is that German predictions about American aviation were not entirely wrong. They were simply incomplete. American pilots were indeed inexperienced when they arrived in France. American aircraft were indeed inferior to German machines in early 1918, and American tactics were indeed primitive compared to German methods. But German commanders failed to account for the American capacity to learn from mistakes, adapt to circumstances, and apply industrial resources to solving technical and tactical problems. American aviation succeeded not by matching German expertise, but by developing entirely different approaches that made German expertise irrelevant. American pilots learned to fight as coordinated teams rather than individual heroes. American industry learned to produce reliable, standardized aircraft in quantities that overwhelmed German production capacity. American commanders learned to integrate air power with ground operations in ways that multiplied the effectiveness of both. The 70 aircraft lost by German forces during Die Schwarze Woche represent more than tactical defeats. They represent the emergence of American air power as the dominant force in modern warfare. Each aircraft shot down demonstrated American capabilities that German commanders had failed to anticipate. Each pilot killed represented German expertise that could not be replaced. Each engagement proved that American industrial capacity, properly applied, could overcome any advantage in individual skill or technological sophistication. When Lothar von Richthofen flies his final mission, on October 3, 1918, he commands a squadron that bears little resemblance to the elite Flying Circus that dominated Allied aviation for 4 years. His pilots are demoralized men flying obsolete aircraft with inadequate fuel and ammunition supplies. His opponents are confident American pilots flying superior aircraft with unlimited industrial support. The transformation is complete. The BTE hunters have become the hunted, and the amateur American Flying Circus has become the most professional air force in the world. The lesson learned during Die Schwarze Woche would reshape military aviation for generations. Individual heroism and traditional military virtues, no matter how refined through years of experience, could not overcome the systematic application of industrial resources to warfare. American air power succeeded not through superior individual pilots, but through superior organization, superior production, and superior integration of technology with tactics. The age of the aerial night was ending, and the age of industrial air warfare had begun.